In data structures, we'll be exploring the basic data structures and their usage in Python. So on this, we're going to focus on creating and accessing and modifying and iterating through lists, dictionaries, tuples, and sets. Okay, so these are the 4 data structures that we are going to do: list, dictionaries, tuples, and sets. So let's start by list. So on each and every data structure, we'll be creating, accessing, and modifying each and every data structure, and also we'll be looping, which is mentioned, here. So looping is just iterating. So we'll be starting by list. So lists are ordered collections of items or elements which can be of any data type. So lists are mutable. By mutable, this means can be changed. Okay, take note of this term. Lists are mutable, meaning that you can change their content without changing their identity. Okay, I'll explain further about this when we'll be doing the practical part. But just know that lists are mutable, meaning you can change their content without changing their identity. So in Python, for lists, we use these square brackets to create lists if you are defining our list as a variable. And we can also use the list constructor. So this is an inbuilt function which is called list with these are called parentheses, opening and closing round brackets. Let me just zoom out so that you can see, but I believe you have the document on your side. So let's open our Tony and do, okay, I do not need this. So a lists are denoted by these square brackets. Okay, so if I type students is equals to, so by this I've defined that I do have a variable called students, and this variable is a list. So a list, like I said, it could, can you put 20 in here? I'm sure your list of your cars don't get to 20. Let's remove this. We have written something like this, right? Only that this one will be different depending on how you've defined your variable, and your values depend on what you have put inside your list. But can you cut 1,000? I'm sure your list doesn't get up to 1,000. Put 1,000 here and try to run it. You'll see that you get this error. Can you kindly confirm if you are getting this error on your side? I'm sure. So you only get this error if your length of your array here doesn't have this index, right? So that's when you get what is called index out of bounds, which is called an index error. Okay, I assume silent means you are typing, but can you kindly fasten up your pace so that you can finish? We're almost 24 minutes to go. We've got only 24 minutes to go. I'm saying only change the index here. Put any value that is so large that you know that my list doesn't have this length, and run it and
We have the
confirm if you are
error.
getting.
Yeah, we have the error. We are getting an error.
Okay, so that error, it means that you are trying to access something that is at a particular index which is not there in your list here. So this list, when it is being created inside the memory location, each and every item inside the value of your array is given an index. So this is going to be indexed given an index of 0. Why? Because this is the first element. Then this is going to be given an index of this one plus 1. So this one will be 0. This one will be 0. Okay. Then this one is going to be given an index of the index of the previous item plus 1. So, but my previous item was 0. So this one is going to be given an index of 0 plus 1, which is a 1. So that's why I said the 1 here. Then this one is going to be given an index of the previous item plus a 1. So this one is going to be given an index of 1 plus 1, which is a 2. So this one is a 2 here. So at any particular index of your array, just know that the next element will always be n plus 1. The next element will always be n plus 1. Okay. Then, so since you get this error, it means that you are trying to access something that is out of array, that is out of bounds. Means you are trying to access something that is at an index which is not there in your array in the first place. So you get an index out of bounds error. We will handle this when we do error handling, when we'll be doing the try catch statements and so forth. But for now, just know that if you try to access something that is at an index which is longer than your array, you get an out of bounds error. Then that's how you access indexes. So we use this index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so forth. Then if you want to access the last element, I said you can use the length. Length, also confirm if you have typed this, what I had earlier. Length of your array, which is length of my cars here, which is my array here. Then you subtract a 1. Confirm if you have tried running this on your side. You should get the last element of your array. So for me, I'll get this one. So it doesn't matter which programming language you are. Indexes are always the same. They start at index 0. I mean, arrays are always the same. Elements in the array always start at index 0. The last element will always be the length of your array, subtract a 1. Then in Python, though, only in Python, maybe also in other programming languages, but the one that is in question is Python. The last element, you can also access it using the index of a -1. So I can say cast index of -1 like this. So this will also retain the last element of my array, but not all in all programming languages. When you put a -1, you get the last index. Only in Python, maybe with other programming languages, but not all of them. So this is other way that you can use to get the last item, or this one. Okay. Then let's now move on to modifying, which is the next part. I want to modify our array. So we do have our array, right? So let me just print my array here. Print cars, right? Like this. So if I run this, I'll get my array here printed. Now I want to modify, maybe we want to change the item that is in the first index to some other value which is not there. So you say cars index 0 is equals to, then you put your value here like this. So let me just change the Mazda to Honda like this. Okay, so this is my original array. At the second line, I've changed what was there as the first element to this value. Now when I print this, I will get Honda here. So let me run this. Instead of Mazda, I'm getting Honda here. Why? Because I've modified. This is the original array. Here I've modified my original array, and I've changed whatever value is there at the first index to this value. Then I've printed cars here. Okay, so this is how you modify your array. Then also, other than modifying, you can increase. So we said lists are mutable. The term mutable, or the term mutable? The term mutable, this one. It means that they can be changed. So here I can see that the length of my list is 5. So if I've printed this earlier. The length of my, I want to print the length of Okay, the length of cars here. We see that this is a 5, right? Which is this one. List, they allow you to add any extra elements in your previous array. So after printing the length of my array, I want to add one element. So maybe I do not want to change the first element. Yeah, I want to leave it as master as it was before. So, but now I want to add Wonder as another car which I want in my list. So I'll say, okay, let me print this. I'll say instead of changing the value of a certain index in my array, I want to add this Wonder as another one. Like I'll be writing Wonder here. Wonder here. Okay, but I already have my array predefined earlier, so I do not want now to go and hard code Wonder. I want to add it programmatically. So I'll use the append keyword. So we'll say cars dot append like this. So this is an inbuilt function. Then you put your value inside. Okay, you put your value, append is double P. So I'm not sure why mine is not. Okay, so this is right, this is right. Then you put your value inside here. Okay, like this. So what this will do, right? It will come to your original array, then it will add Wonder here, like this. Okay, so now when I run this, so after I've added Wonder, I also want to see the new length of my array. So let me just put this at the bottom. Okay, so let me run this. As you can see, I had 5 in my original array, which is this one, which I've printed here because I haven't changed it yet. And I've printed the array itself, which is this one. Then after I've printed the original array, I said, can you also add Wonder to my original array? After you've added Wonder, can you give me now the new length of my array, which is now 6? Then also, can you print the new array? So it is now printed, the new array with Wonder being added here. So this is how you modify arrays or lists. Okay. Then so we did the append. Then also the remove, you use the remove function. But the remove function, this one has to be there in your array. It has to be there in your array. So let me do the removing part. Again, you have this. Then I use the remove Toyota. Okay, let me see what happened if it doesn't find. So you see that I tried to remove Toyota, but my Toyota has a double A. But in my array, I do not have a Toyota with a double A. As you can see, the only Toyota I have is one with one A at the end. So the remove, other than the add will work fine as long as what you are trying to add is valid. Okay, I will not be able to add a variable which doesn't have a value, or I will try to add a variable which doesn't fall under proper variable naming conventions that we did on the variable section. So whatever, if you are using the add function, you will not get an error as long as what you are trying to add here is valid. But the remove, whatever you're trying to remove here, has to be there in the original array. It has to be there. If it doesn't find it, you get an error. So this error tells me I'm trying to remove X, but the X is not there in my list. So this X is what is being referred to as the Toyota here. But my Toyota has double A, so it will try to find Toyota with a double A in my list, but it will not find it. So this function will fail to execute properly. But now if I remove this, then if I run it, you see that I'll get my code running fine. But this time my length is decremented to 5 again, because when I add it to Wonder here, it has gone up to 6, which is here. Then I have removed this one, so it has gone up to back to 5 again, but this time it has been removed here. Then, so that's how you modify your list. So we have did the append, the remove, the accessing at particular index, and the creating, of course, because we do not do all of those without creating an array first. So these are the key functions that you use to work with lists. Okay. Any questions on lists before we move on to what's the next one? Where are they? Before we move on to dictionaries, any questions on lists? Any questions on lists? Okay. So I'll take
Clarification on
silent.
modify.
Okay, which part of modifying? Was the modifying we started it at here. When you pick your array, you pick an index, then you replace it with a value. Then you also did the append, you also did the remove. These are all modifying. So which part of modifying are you referring to? Or you need
Adding the
clarification?
elements.
So adding the elements, I said you use the append. This is an inbuilt function. We talked about functions yesterday. We said we do have what are called inbuilt functions. Then we do have what are called user-defined functions. Okay, so these ones are there for you. You don't need to create them. They are already created for you by the person who created that programming language. There are libraries for that in your programming language. So what you just need to know is how you access them and what arguments you pass to that function. Okay, so for adding in Python, there is already an inbuilt function called append. This one. So it's called append like this. You write it as it is. If I put 1p here, I will get an error. Like I said, calling functions, you need to call them as they are, and also you need to pass the arguments that are accepted in that function. So if I call the append with 1p here, I'll get an error because this one will not exist. So I said to add, you use the append keyword, right? This one. This is an inbuilt function. So you put your array name, you put a dot, you put append keyword or append function, then you put the value inside the parentheses. So these are my opening and closing round brackets, then I put the value here. So previously, my array doesn't have Wonder here. Okay, then I've added Wonder to my list of my cars here. So that's how you add items to your list. Then at the bottom, I printed the new array here. So this is the one that printed, where is it? This one. That printed the new array with Wonder being added. But I also printed it, the original array, before I've added anything, which is this one. So that you can see the changes. Okay, just try to move it like this. Well, let me just try to close this. Okay, as you can see here, where is that? Okay, so as you can see, I do have this original array or this original list without Wonder being added. Then I've performed the add function by using the append, this one. Then I've printed the new array at the bottom here, which is this one. Okay, understood now how you add items to your list?
Yes.
The same as removing. I said for you to remove, you use the remove keyword. You have to use it as it is like this. That's how we talked about functions. That's how it was defined originally in its library. So if I put my remove with capital letter R, I'll get an error here. So list is no object called remove. So it will now think that remove is a user-defined function. but I didn't define remove anyway in my code, so I'll get an error unless I define. We did the definition, the def keyword. If I put remove, this is now a defined function like this. Where's the where are the codes? No, not this one. Oh, okay. Apologies, my keyboard is more like Arabic or something. I'm not sure which language is this. So this is now a user defined function. So I can put an argument for it to run here successfully. Okay. But now this function will no longer perform the task that I want to do, because I want to remove Toyota from my array. But I've put in my array with a capital letter R, which is saying that this is now a user-defined function other than this remove that it is trying to look for in the already existing libraries. So what this now, it will say cars.remove, but here I'll get an error. Why? Because cars doesn't have this attribute in its class. So cars is a list. So this cars doesn't have remove in its class. So I'll get an error here. So let me see if I run this. You still see that I do not have this as my function. So for it to run successfully, I need to call remove without cars here. Okay. So this print A is the one that is printed Toyota, this one, which is this one. Okay. So like I said, the remove function, you need to call it as it is, the same as the append, only that for the append, as long as whatever you're trying to add, the value that you are putting is valid, the append will not throw an error. But for the remove, the item that you want to remove has to exist in your original array. It has to exist. So the remove function, it accepts any argument, any data type, as long as this value exists in this array. So this is the array, right? Cars. So from cars, I want to remove this value. But if this value doesn't exist in this array, this will throw an error. Okay? Understood now on how you add, how you remove items in a list.
Yes.
Due to time, I won't be able to finish dictionaries. So, but at least can you also do more practices on lists? Don't worry about dictionaries and tuples and sets. Just research more on lists, how lists work in Python, how you access. Uh, so now we're fine. On the 5 minutes that are left, let's combine the list that we have learned with the control structures, the looping structure that we did yesterday. So I did have my original array, which is cars, right? Okay. Now I want to print everything that is in my array here. So I can use cars like this. You just need to print your array. But what will this do? It will print everything inside my array. I will not have control over any item in my array. Okay. I will never have control. By control, it means I may want to perform some logic operations on a particular item or at a particular index of my array. But if I print cars like this, I won't get access to these elements. Why? Because this will treat this as one element, as a whole, which is represented by this variable. But if I do this for I in range, now what you do here, you put, so if you remember the range, you were putting upper bound like this. Then I'll print I like this. Where's my colon? I'll print I like this. Then we say this I is an index. If I run this, I'll get 0 to 4, right? Like this. So this I is an index. It's not anything else, but it's an index. By index, it means at what position are we at through our looping, right? But now we want to print, we said these are indexes. So anytime I want to access any item in an array, I will access it through an index. So here we do have indexes, which is fine. So what I just need to do here is I just need to ask. So what this will do here, it will access cars, and it will replace the I with the index that you are at. So if I run this, it will loop through. It will not loop through cars. It will loop through a range of 5 because I haven't specified the custom upper bound here. I did put a static. If you remember here, I said these are static. So no matter how many times I run this code, this for loop will only execute 5 times. So this one will loop 5 times, and it will print every item of my list at this particular index. So this is my list, and this is my index. So it will start at index 0. If you remember, I said if you don't put the lower bound here, like I can put 1 to 5, but if I don't specify, my I will always start at 0. Then we said car index 0 is how you access the first index. So this will loop 5 times, and it will print my elements here. So now I do have access to each and every item of my array. So I can do whatever I want with that element. So I can put an F here, and I can now modify my print statement like car name is equals to, then I'll put this like this, then I put this. Okay, so now if I run this, you can see I've modified my print statement. So like I said, if you want to access your elements at any particular index, you can use control structures for that. But what happens here if I put a 6? So what it will do, it will loop 6 times. So for the first 4, it will work fine. But when it gets, for the first 5, it will work fine. But when it gets to 6, it will try to access car at index 6. But we say this is index 0, this is index 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when it gets to 6, it will try to access cars at index 6. And that will throw an error. Why? Because we do not have that element here. So if I run this, you will see that it has printed fine for the first 5, but it doesn't have the 6th element here. That's why it throws this error. So for you to avoid those errors, your upper bound depends on your length of your list. So here I'll put length of my list like this. Okay, so what this will return is the length of whatever length I do have on my array. So it doesn't matter if it goes up to 2 million, up to 10 million. I will still have my for loop running very properly and accessing any index I want properly. So now if I run this, you see I'll get my cassette and index. So we are just combining the list that we have learned today in with the 4 that we did yesterday or on Sunday. I think it was Saturday. That's when we did for loop. You can also use the nested for loops, but for this one it's just a one-dimensional array, so there won't be need for that. But that's how we are combining what we've learned previously, and we are progressing by learning new things and combining the ones that we have learned earlier to have a smart code and to understand programming more effectively. So I think for today we're done with lists. Dictionaries will do them in the next lesson. Any